Hi everybody, today here we are in Honolulu talking to Su'a Sulu'ape Aisea Toetuu. He is the owner of Soul Signature Tattoo and also a master of the Polynesian tatau, a handtapper who learnt with the Sulu'ape family. He's been tattooing since around 1994. Aisea, can you please tell us how do you go about earning the title of Su'a Sulu'ape?
I was actually introduced to a dear friend of mine named Trish Allen, and that's how I was introduced to him. In my younger years, my grandma used to talk about Tonga tattooing to me because she witnessed it at a young age, and in the Hifo, her grandfathers and great grandfathers were tattooed as well. So her whispers and her stories got me interested, and I started following this. And I was already tattooing at home, doing homemade machine with the guitar string and the Walkman motor. So I was doing that for a while, and then I actually hand poke. And then, she witnessed doing some tattoos on some of these young gentlemen that were still fitted with gangs, and we're talking about Tongan Crips and those things that they see now to today. Coming out of the 70s, the 80s, into the 90s, my grandma would tell me that real men had real tattoos.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, what is that? But at that time, I didn't think anything about I had no clue about Polynesian tattoo at the time because it wasn't really valued at that time. I mean, yeah, we saw a couple armbands here and there. I mean, the pair was hardly seen. It was not how now it's a lot. But with Allen, she took me under her wing and guided me through the understanding of fundamentals of asset techniques, saw me tattooing, encouraged me to the hygiene and all everything. And then also understanding a lot on tattooing itself. But she knew I was driven to revive the Tongan tattoo, But where do I start? At that time, we didn't have we didn't have like the internet or anything, and we had libraries in Hawaii. We didn't have like the good libraries, like I guess we would have in New Zealand or would have a lot of resources upon Polynesian history. We had UH as well. We had also BYU, but some of those books I said before where they're reference books, and there was only a few information about Tongan tattooing. I read a lot of stories, I read a lot of legends, and then from there it picked up, and then that with the artwork, and then I learned a lot of Samoan tattooing and Tongan tattooing at the time. Tongan tattooing and Samoan tattooing in the street level was similar. We did a lot of mixed siapo and ngatu designs. It was like kind of a mixture of I don't know how to say the word, but it was more of a contemporary Polynesian tattooing where we started using floral designs with movements and stuff, but they were very a lot from the tapa designs and siapo designs, and we're doing a lot on armbands, mixing it up together with names and stuff like that. But I was always interested in the tatau. Didn't know of anyone at the time. Until I ran into a store where they had this little paperback book that was can't remember who the writer was, and I opened the book and it had a man's thigh and it said Tongan tattooing, and behind that book, I closed it. It was a small little paperback book. It had a man sitting in a canoe with a bear, and and he was looking towards the horizon at the beach. That drove the curiosity, the imagination.
Can you explain what a pea is to those people that don't know?
Yeah, so pea is a Samoan tradition tattoo that is done among the male. It's a sort of rite of passage in the Samoan community. It embodies their heritage, it embodies their ancestor, it has the origin of the people. It's I wouldn't say the word design. It's philosophy. It's everything to the people of Samoa.
And it's the one that goes from the knees all the way up to the waist, right?
Waist. Yeah. And it's done with many hours of tattooing with bone, and it took a lot of commitment, lots of pain, and a lot of payment to the su'as when they're done, because it was to show the appreciation and the appreciation to Tufunga's mana.
The power.
Because you have to look at people as Tufungas as they're like priests.
Yeah.
So like gods almost, because they harness that the mana from the ancestral world, and they're the vessel and they perform the art. So that's the thing. They're like a va'a, they're like that. And then when these Tufungas, when they're done, they hopefully pass on the tool to the next vessel to continue on the journey. So coming from the learning of, especially with being around Su'a, he was a big role in harnessing me to be the greatest Tufunga I am today. Alaiva'a Petelo. And I was already doing tattoo machines already. But when he bestowed a title and gave me the tools, gave me the blessing to use the tools. That was the biggest turning point of my life.
Yeah, but it took you a long time, like you said, when he bestowed the title, but this was years and years for you, correct?
Yeah. Yes, years. I said I met him in 99. I started later towards the end of 99, going into 2000. I didn't get to my title till 2004. So I was been with him around that time too. Because we were, he heard of me through, like I said, to Trisha Allen as a young teenage who's trying to revive Tongan tattooing. So, kind of want to make clear where he did not teach me Tongan tattooing. He taught me the martial arts of Samoan tattoo, and he had the kind heart to seek me out and goes, when I'm in Hawaii, I want to see this boy. So I was invited. And when Trisha called me that one day and told me that, hey, guess who's in town? I was like, Su'a is in town. I said, oh my God. I said, yes. And he asked you to come to attend one of his tattoo sessions. And that was, and then at that time, I worked late nights. So I was like, I would get up at 2 in. Trisha told me, be there by 7 a.m. I'm like, oh my God. So I missed that 7 a.m. Maybe I would not be who I am today. So I got up. Got there and that was it. It was beautiful. I didn't know what I was walking to. I didn't, because at the time, like I said, the year of being a teenage, looking at the pe'a, and now, almost 10 years later, I'm going to see a man who's performing pe'a. I was more than starstruck. I was more than I was shaking, nervous, because this is the family that's doing these, and you got to think about it as a home tattooer going to shop. We're doing small stuff. When we think about tattooing, people don't realize that the pe'a is, that how the intense work from the knee to the hips, and it's all the areas that modern tattooists today hate to do.
Yeah. But you guys have skin stretchers, though, right? And is that not as part of the apprenticeship, is to stretch the skin and to watch what's being done?
But the fact that when I saw they're completing a bodysuit, it's from a bodysuit. You think about it, it takes 3/4 of your body. Your torso, your knee, all you have is your calves, and then you're covered. But I was amazed that these guys did it within weeks. Yeah. And I was like, with no pain medicine.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I was young and hungry. I was very courageous, and I always tested myself. And when I was around Su'a to see this, I just couldn't believe that something like a man like this with these small tools created this.
Well, they're not that small, though. I mean, I've seen them myself. You have a couple there. Can you show us like one of the tools?
Yeah, so I have one we have a bone one here, and this is one done with. Let's see.
Yeah, you see that.
From black, and you can see how some of the teeth are missing.
How wide is that roughly on the top? How wide is it?
I'm gonna say it's 1.5 inches. This one. About 1.5 inches. The tool. Yeah.
Yeah. You can see the little bones are missing. So, what bone is that? What kind of bone?
So this is a boar's tusk. Back in the days, I think a lot of people used to think that it was out of bird bone, truss, or I don't. To me, it's still a mystery. I know. But the pigs, we don't know if they were brought in or the boars were brought in later. Later on, we switched to the boar's tusk. But many Pacific Islanders use the human bone, shin bone of the masters. That's what I heard before. I'm not too sure how accurate that, but I think some people said they use shells, but I will highly think they don't use shells because of they're porous,
brittle, kind of
brittle. Because once you shave them, they can fall in the skin and it can cause an infection. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was it. And I think they would sand it down and put it together and then sharpen with a Vanna quill, one of the sharpers of the Vanna. And that's how they would sharpen.
It takes a very, very long time to make one of those tools, right?
Oh yeah. So coming from bone tattoo, something I learned from one of Keonis Nunes workshop that they had, and I used to go up there and help them in stretching. Watching them do the bone was also as well. The time it takes to make one tool. Yes, it took a lot of hours. They were treated, I can see, like children, your tools. You gave birth to it. You're dedicated. Made your lashes, made your handles look good to perform its duty, its service. Yeah.
But it was not just one per person, though, right?
No, it was used many times. Yeah. So even the aftercare, they had to clean it up and wash it. In those days, I think we didn't have that much disease back then until we started European contact. They started bringing other influences, and then a lot of diseases were probably infection, staph. or
Yeah.
other things, or influenza.
Bloodborne diseases, yeah.
Yeah,
Syphilis,
bloodborne.
things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But throughout the years, there's something we understand why Samoa stayed in the forefront of traditional tattooing, because it didn't sleep. It stayed alive. And through these masters that kept it alive in the jungle. Because, I think the youngest generations need to understand that Samoan tattoo also was being oppressed by the Christianities as well. Tonga, completely. I mean, the king just kind of agreed, hey, no more tattooing.
It was 1836 that the missionaries banned it in Tonga?
Yeah, actually, it was more the king did it. So he was influenced by them. He did a war campaign, civil war in Tonga, and won the upper hand, and he wrote a constitution about banning certain practices in Tonga. So tattooing was one of them. He got rid of certain priests that we had practicing certain old rituals, However, he kept the ones that could benefit the country, and converted everybody into being more of a Christian country, a state. And when I say Tonga's Christian country, is meaning that very devoted Christian. Everything closed on Sunday. Your prayers morning, afternoon, and night. I mean, we were talking about how Christians in Western cultures now, but Tongans were already God-fearing people. They already knew religion, so they just converted, and then, man, I mean, their whole life was based off that. So you guys could imagine what it was like taking Tongan tattooing back home to even introduce it. Or at the time when I was telling people in the early 90s and 2000s that we had a Tongan tattoo heritage, and they were telling me, no, we didn't. That big gap of my father's and them growing up without the tattoo, that was it. But my grandma whispered an old story. So, I thank her for everything in a way, because she guided me. I mean, I could have went with the gang tattoos and did something else. But when she whispered about the men with tattoo, and I saw a Samoan male from hips to knee, then it clicked in my mind that this is what my grandma was talking about. But I didn't understand what was Samoan, what was Tongan at the time.
But Samoa and Tonga, for those people that don't really know, I mean, they're fairly close to each other within the Pacific as island groups, right? And so they interacted with the tatau back in the day?
Yeah, so let me tell you about a story about Samoa and Tonga, and also there's Fiji and Futuna and Nuvea. And parts of that circle down the South Pacific. They had built an empire with each other. And this is something I think, to break the stigma about Samoa, Tonga versus this. Samoans, Tongans, and Fijians, Utu and Uvens, and also as well as Tahitis, we used to intermarry each other. And when you marry each other, you're building alliance. And a lot of that was because to keep the trading in the canoes, long distance travels, and acquiring the resources that one country doesn't have. So they were already having their own diplomatic culture as a Pacific Islander, and Tonga was very known for its imperialism. With the canoe, as we talk about the Vaka, the vessel that carried people and spreaded Tongan values and culture among the Pacific. Also, adopted a lot from Samoa, adopted a lot from Fiji. So this is going on for centuries and hundreds of years. So we're very influenced with each other. We a lot of Tongan male, Tongan highborn would marry to someone Taupos. And you kind of think about the culture where they kept a koloa trade, a service where they could exchange craftsmanship with each other. So they kept a network of this. So can you imagine the tattooing as well, going back and forth? And eventually when Tonga kind of died out, this tattooing, they were forced. Effectively, they're kind of made a decision, say, hey, I got to finish my tattoo. I got to go and finish it here to my cousins back in Samoa. Now, I think we need to understand that there is two different kind of tattooing going on. There's Tongan and there's Samoan tattooing. The Tongan tattooing had its own heritage, and I think it's because, one, we need to understand that Samoa believes in two twins, female. Tonga has two males. So it's a male. Not they're twins, but it's just that tattooing came from two males.
The legends of the beginning of the tatau, right? That they swam between the islands.
Right. Being that Tonga has an origin of two males brought Tongan tattooing to our country, that has its own story itself. But I see what's going on with some of these Samoan Tufungas out there are trying to claim that we brought tattooing to Tonga. I said, no, it wasn't like that. Because we already had 2 stories then.
The twins. Yeah, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, right. They had it for a long time as well. It's just that the king got rid of it and said, hey, you know what? We don't want nothing to do with it. And Samoa didn't go to rest. I wouldn't say that it stayed alive for a while. I mean, they dodged the imperialism of Christianity there. I remember telling stories where they used to go into the jungle and hide, and tattoo. Because the early missionaries, didn't go into the jungle. They stayed on the coastal shores.
Right.
Yeah. So when some of the Samoan men would come from the village and sell their produce and taro or their coconuts to the ships, a lot of them would have to cover their tattoos because they don't want to get caught. And sometimes stories I heard that when some of these officers that were in the wharf would see someone with a tattoo, they would arrest him and say, "Hey, where's the tattooist? Where's he at?" They'll interrogate him, and they won't say nothing. But it was that point where that they were trying to abolish also as well. So Samoa had they had to navigate through the new world as well, and that's what I'm saying. I take it up to the Tulu'wenga and the Su'a families, to the Sula'apes, for them to keep tattooing to where it's at now, and and then up to the early 90s. Well, not 90s, I would say. When they moved to New Zealand and Australia, the tattooing got more recognition and popularized.
Yeah, I remember that they came to Su'a Petelo and Paolo both came to Europe to tattoo in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, and that was wild just to see that.
That was wild, yeah.
Not as not even as an islander, but just to see that whole presentation of the tatau. And the payas and the tattooing that was done was just incredible.
Yeah.
But leading back a little bit to what you were saying about the bone, you also said the conventions, after a while there was no tapping to be done at the conventions because the material couldn't be sterilized, right, with the bone. And you were heavily influential with the needle making that allowed them to be able to go to the conventions.
Yes. So people didn't realize that I actually stayed with Alaiva'a, and we had long nights talks. I slept at his house, stayed with him. One of my things with my apprenticeship was, I remember when I started going in the early 2000. There was a point where when he comes to Hawaii, he tells my wife at the time, goes, "You stay here, your children go and wife goes to him." So I would sleep with him, do the try. I would get up, make his coffee, get the pillows ready, put it in the sun, put the fala, and we had long nights talking about bone making and how, and I would see him every morning before he starts his day. And remember now, the way tools are treated nowadays, it's not the same it's treated back in the day. It's almost like there's no secret.
Yeah.
It's almost when the Tufunga gets ready for his work, he talks to his tools almost. I don't know if he was, but they could see him, and I would just sit far away and watch him. And I would see that he's getting a chef or a sushi chef getting ready to sharpen his knife to start his day. And he would look at it, he would sharpen it, get ready for the day, because now he has like 5 guys to finish in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. You could see how much delicate you look, sharpen it, make sure it's clean and sharp. Sterilization was, they used to use this chemical, had to have formaldehyde or something like that, or some kind of Sidex or something.
Yeah, I think it's Sidex. Yeah, that they were using.
Yeah, and some kind of medical medicide or something like that. Well,
that's newer, but yeah, I think it was Sidex back then.
And then bleach was one of the words they used to use back in the day. For bleach, it deteriorated the bone. It ate the bone, and you could see it where when you took the bone out and you cleaned it, you could feel the chalkiness. Yeah, it's coming off. I'm like, what is this? Su'a got concerned about that because he didn't want that chalkiness to in the skin. So that was also a problem. Then Sidex and Metaside or some of those things that we dipped inside. And the other thing was a mixture. I can't remember what it was, 20, but you had to leave it for more than 10 hours to sterilize. And this was cold sterilization. Of course, you can put in autoclave as well as either. The bones are raw. So this became kind of a crisis to going to conventions. And then they had Parasafe, those using, also County News with them was using Parasafe, but also Parasafe was not also FDA approved in America. So a lot of these conventions were asking all these things like how is sterilized, how's this, we want to see as well. And then if it was made in Europe, whatever was made in Europe was okay in Europe, but wasn't okay in FDA.
Yeah.
So that became a conflict of interest to everything, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to do this. So I was making needles at the time. Trisha, all of us back in the day, of course, nowadays, we didn't buy needles. We had to make our own needles. So I decided to solder a couple needles and try doing a mag from the smallest, from like 15, then build an 18 and 20. Then I started to create what they call like an ace, the biggest mag I could make of the jig I had. Laid in there, laid flat, and I would hold it and then solder that part. So I made a little half of 1 inch, I think, and I brought it to Su'a one day. And I think I started the same way as a mag, where halfway. So I brought it to him, but remember now, I was using the regular 12 standard needle at the time. So I didn't use the jumbo until I discovered the jumbo needle. So I brought the needle and I just kind of put it in the bag, sterilized it, cleaned off, took all the flux, and then I showed him the needle. And he looked at it and he was like, oh, this is just. We lashed it onto one of his. He had a leftover tool, and it was broken off one of the bones because he had a lot of leftover scrap tools in his suitcase. So he told me to lash this on top. So we lashed it on top and we gave it a go. And he used it. I think he used.
That you can show us right now.
Yeah. So one of the tools now that I have here, that design was is.
So they lash on the very top. You lash them to the.
Yeah. So we kept the same tradition lashing as a Samoan tool, and all we did was the evasive part from here down became the mag needle.
That's an impressive looking tool.
Yeah, and let me tell you a funny story about the dental floss. We got invited the first time to Orange County. It was called Music Inc. Yeah, and that's where my wife at that time was emailing with them with the sterilization department in Orange County, asking us the whole spiel of the sterilization. And man, they were not giving any inch of. I mean, they wanted me to put the whole tool in the autoclave. Yeah, I said, yeah, they wanted everything to be all autoclave, everything all tool. I said, listen, I wrote to them that handles don't go into the skin. They're wrapped up with saran. They're wrapped up with like the sleep cords. Yeah, cord tape wrapped up all the way down to the plastic, and this evasive part stays down that goes in. They still wanted me to get everything FDA approved. I'm like, holy man, these guys were, but you know what? Is this that it taught me, educated me, him to say, okay, maybe this was a lesson to me to like, okay, I won't cross T's and dot my I's. All right, cool. I got. So yeah, wrapped it up. We got to the Orange County to Music Inc. And Su'a got Su'a to come with me. We all went together. I used to pay for his things to come over because it was very important for him to be at these places in this environment. And we went there, and health department guys came to the booth, and I had the tools. They were sitting in a bowl like this, and they were just expecting. And there was one guy like this, looking at my tool. One guy, may I touch it? Goes, yeah, grabbed it, looked at it. And man, what's funny is like, I don't know what they're looking at.
Right, I don't know what they're looking at either.
I don't know what part goes in the skin. So I just looked at them and I sat there like, guys, maybe go through all this headache to all do this, but I learned a lesson that I knew that, okay, that they actually telling me that the handle. So that after the music, then I went back home and did my homework. These are the questions that if I go to the next convention, I got to make sure I have all this written down. Handles, okay, this, that. So it was good. Actually, it challenged the idea. Okay, good. So I just don't walk in there and say it's just needle. But I have to make sure I got everything covered. But the dental floss was amazing. That what blew my mind because the guy came up to me and he goes, what is that? He goes, it's lashed with dental floss. And this is something we understood. Dental floss was used a lot in prison tattoos. Because if people don't realize that dental floss can be actually a natural solder. If you wrap things real tight and you heat up with a lighter, the wax and the nylon tend to shrink and it tightens up on the needle.
There you go.
So yeah, you could use that a lot on the guy. And I was like, okay. So I used some of my homemade machine techniques into it and said, you know what? I got the solder, light it up, and actually you see the wax just melt around the needle.
Yeah, just kind of,
And it held it tight. And I was like, okay. So, but he was saying, well, how do we know this is FDA approved? So I took the dental floss, took a picture of the FDA part. It goes, right here, it says FDA approved. Why would you not put it in the mouth and then not put it in? And I was like, okay. But yeah, they got real anal with me. And I was like, okay. But I'm glad that they did because it made me come back home and then recalibrate everything again.
Right. And then you said that recently you kind of became aware of the fact that Tonga's been having a problem with tattooing that may be less than hygienic, even though it's banned. It's there.
Yeah. So when I was there in 2010, we saw a high case of hepatitis in Tonga at the time, and the infection was crazy. Like in many islander kind of people, I think that him, me, and I, and all of us at tattoos, we do live a secret society, sort of. We have our own code of conduct.
Yeah, right.
We each one teach one. We share ideas because and we don't share to the outside world because they don't. Either one, they don't care, and one, they're not their interest. They look at us like, oh, tattoo people. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
but at the same time, we care. People don't know we tattoos. We care. We care a lot. it's hard just when you go. Trisha and I would walk around where people look at us like, "Oh, you're tattoo people," and like, yeah, but they don't know that we actually care because why? One, if we didn't care, yeah, shit, use whatever ink you want to use, no glove. I don't give a shit. Get infected, who cares? Pay me and I'm out. But we do have care, and I think that's where people forget that as a tattooist, if this hygiene is there, he cares. He cares a lot about his craftsmanship, you as well, and himself as well, and we protect the environment. But people don't take notice of that sometimes. They just look at us as we're what taboo people.
Right, I would imagine, especially in Tonga, where it's been banned and it is not really a thing, and people are going to be like, "You are the tattoo artist, really?"
Yeah, exactly. And that's the attitude there was at the time, and to today it's still there. It's and it's gonna take a while. It's gonna be like where a generation of the idea of believing that tattooing can be brought. Tattooing in Tonga now, amazing artists. There's amazing practices out there. They're still practicing tattooing, and they're doing good work and they're promoting good conduct of tattooing. And it's good to see a good handful of Tongan tattooers that are pushing the art of tattooing.
Yeah.
Because at one point it was looked down upon.
Right.
But instead of creating a division among artists, my thing is it was banded, guys.
Yeah.
Let's get together, let's band together to create it together. Someone didn't lose it, they actually enhanced it. It was dormant for a while in the early 80s and 90s because it was still within its rituals and culture, and how someone's couldn't take the rituals with them overseas at the time, but then they figured it out, and with the Sulu'ape families and what they kind of journeyed out, tattooing in California as well and carrying the rituals with it, and Samoans had to adapt to the payment with the mats and with the food presentation, and they modified a new system, which is amazing because with culture you do have to modernize to cater to the needs of the people.
Yeah.
And I watched this in the Samoan culture when they did that, and I said, "Wow, this is amazing." At the same time, as Tongans, we're doing the same thing, and we're just practicing our culture in a foreign land.
Right. So
Right.
then moving on to like Ta Vaka, this is your own establishment of a foundation to recreate super traditional Tongan cultural tatau.
Right. Yes.
So explain to me about the foundation itself, like how you got the idea to do that, and how it formed and how you intend to lead it forward.
So in my younger years, yes, I have pictures of me tattooing myself. Trisha had also come to the house and actually do the session. When I got my first machine, after from graduating from a homemade machine to a real machine, there was this magazine that I had. It was called Joe Kaplan machine I bought, and I decided that to myself. Baby, it was at a young age, that I was teenage to my 20s. It was just go for it. Oh, God's all glory.
Yeah.
Just put the design on and walk around and call it Tongan. And I thought that was the idea. And this is interesting. I just found a video on YouTube that was Trisha was part of the film too as well, and she introduced me to the guys to film this boy who's tattooing himself, and that picture had me doing a lot of top of designs on my leg and just getting designs like what I could find.
Yeah. And
taking some of my contemporary work that I had on myself and creating something on my leg. So this what sparked the Sulu'ape family when they found out this young boy in Hawaii was tattooing himself. And from the 97, that time, Trisha put an article on me in, I think, 96, 97. And that's what kind of sparked everybody to Tongan tattooing. What? Talking about? They kind of gave people the attention. And then around Paulo and Alaiva'a, they actually started to do something with some people in New Zealand and here and there. But when we started doing the Tongan tattoo, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to get the design, put up there, and then properly present to the people and say, this is Tongan. But the problem was, the Tongan people didn't believe in any of tattooing. So here I'm going to walk around with a beautiful design and telling people at a teenager or 20s to say, this is Tongan tattoo. Yeah, right. They'll look at me like a fool.
There is no tattoo in Tonga.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where that really was where at that time I got stuck again. And then I went do more research, more observation, more, it took my life, my whole life.
Dedication.
And I could have done something else.
Been a plumber.
A landscaper. I built amazing waterfalls. I could climb trees. I'm a good landscaper. But I'm 50 years, something years old now. And I'm not ashamed to tell my age because I want people to know it's exhausting.
I can imagine.
Something kept me in. It kept me. I don't know. It was like little clues were thrown to. I don't know if the ancestors are throwing biscuits at me.
Right.
Yeah, he goes, "You're not done yet. You're not done yet here." And it led me to this. That's what I was saying. Like I was ready to give it up at times. Then here, Trisha calls me up. Hey, someone's here.
Right.
And he goes, the biscuit was thrown by grandma, the whisper. And then another was here. And then, it was just a time. And then, why Ta Vaka, why I'm going to explain the long story is because the Ta Vaka meant a lot of one, everybody's life experience. You're a Vaka, then everybody's a Vaka. You're a vessel of an old soul from somewhere. Everybody has spiritual guidance, not just Polynesians. We all carry an ancestral, I'm going to say the word spirit, something cling, and you can invite bad ones or good ones, and so far good ones are been in our boats. So Vaka has been a word where my journey, the journey of the recipients as well, and the journeys of on, and how the Vaka can connect to the underworld as well to the present. So the word Vaka not only means the vessel of a canoe, but what a canoe embodies is souls and teaching, and is a captain, and you're the captain. So through those years, and then coming with when Su'a and I collaborated on doing the 12 guys, the Tongan tattoo we did, and it was published, and we didn't have a name at the time. It was just called Tongan Pe'a. Now, it was cool, the idea at the time, but then it called Tongan Pe'a. It was still considered, and Su'a told me when one of those nights was saying, hey, we have to find you guys own, a name and find our own rituals. And that was something we was going to work into, and it's true. And we had to kind of build something around our culture values, versus the price value, and we steal that to the people that has some significance to our people. So Ta Vaka was that name that I came up with, meaning to embody. Now there's a confusion out there. People think that Vaka, I named it after a canoe and all that. Well, it's a what do you call it? Metaphor. Yeah, it's a spiritual meaning because canoes do represent a form of a physical, spiritual, and mental embodiment. Everything's a Vaka in Tonga. Your tavala is a Vaka. Something that you hold, your tattoo machine can be a Vaka. It carries energy that performs. So, and I hear people talking about, in Tonga, we have word Vaka as canoe, but we also have many models of canoes, a type. We have Tongiaki, we have Karias, Tafa'anga, Popau, Whakawaka Ame, Hamatefua. It's still considered a ship, a vessel that carries your essence and your soul. And I want to make that clear to people because I want to make sure they don't get confused of that. I'm not naming the canoe of a certain type of boat. It's not a dinghy,
Right.
or outrigger canoe, but the word Vaka represents more of a metaphor of you are embodying your ancestors' heritage and the culture carry with you. And when you're gone, this vessel that we have is gone and passed on to the next vessel.
Right. Well, and also you use the lashings of the canoe ama in your logo.
Yes, and that was the number one. So that is a fata design we call it Tonga, and we see in the back, and that symbolizes of someone's. To me, it was very heavy with the Kingdom of Tonga, where the fata o Tonga, meaning that's kind of like a leadership where all the beams lean to one of this beam, and I was in that as a king he carries all the load of them on his shoulder and his back, but I also see it as a form of that lashing comes from these beams that go around the house. They actually kind of hold the house up. So it's a very symbolic to me as a one who carries the burden of the culture on his back.
Yeah.
And I use a simple lashing design, which I learned from when I used to go to his seminars and him on all his projects. And some of this philosophy he would tell me, and this is where I kind of say, this is symbolism too. And he opened my mind to geometrical shapes, pattern design, and actually taught me the origin of Tongan tattoo designs were actually come from a lot from the lashing. And amazing man, and to him, the Ta Vaka was not just something I formed in my head. It was a lot of work I came from the canoe builder, Tuyone, Pulotu. Worked many years with him. Filipito with lashing. Introduced by Tita Father, who came to my school, children's school that I ran, and he taught celestial stars and compass of Tongan culture and the months. My grandma, she was also a medicine woman. We don't say the word witch doctor, but she was one who gave it people that possess bad energy. And my uncle, Lopeti's father, Funaki, who taught me a lot, was a big influence in my life and my father.
Well, and as a Tufunga, you are a cultural leader to these people too,
Yeah.
right? This is you had your own school, you still do, yeah?
Yeah, not yet. I have to find more teachers now because the problem was the teachers.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of this Kari law school I had was all my tattooing money I made, my fund, I paid the school. Food, lunch, I bought a bus for them, everything. So the thing ran for 2.5 years. Yeah, I was because a lot of Tongans don't go back to Tonga. Kids are born here, and they're born to have descendants. They're not pure Tongan. They're half Hawaiian, Portuguese, Haole, Asian. They there's something we need to understand in the Pacific that I think people need to need to remind that Tonga is still an independent Polynesian country.
Yeah.
It still has a monarch, and that's what's very important because as long as that man's on that throne, we have a culture of our own. It is sad to see our generation are far away, but then they see that who's this king? Owns his own people, his own waters, and he's not popular by anybody but himself. So yes, I can see people can gravitate like, wow, we actually have a kingdom. But then what is a kingdom to the children? What is the service? What is how to be a Tongan? And they're living in America. It's hard. Or live in Australia, New Zealand. But yet they label themselves Tongans, but then they don't realize that a kingdom has duties.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a class system, So when we move to countries like the United States or New Zealand, and so we have democracy, I guess.
Sort of.
Where is a culture value more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still run by that. The nobles and chiefs are still in power, and those noble chiefs are still the same one was centuries ago, and as well as Samoa and Fiji. How can we bring the kids into a rich kingdom of Tonga in here in society today? It's hard, but we're having my Kareo school and all my teachers that I learned from my Tufunga masters that I call them my teachers and masters have to think that we have to be Tufungas. You have to be Tufunga. Everybody's a Tufunga in the sense of teaching and be responsible and accountable. That if no one takes it, we got to do it. Something. But if you can plant an idea to one child, that can be abundant, hopefully. But if we can plant to many children, hopefully it gets there. And then some of the students I have today are success. They're good. They learn to compass. So Karilo School was a school that I had where I understanding the Tongan heritage and culture, living in diaspora. And learning to use two compass, the Western compass and then the Tongan compass. But a compass tells you direction to go, right?
Right.
And the Tongan compass is different from the Western compass. We
don't have a foot in each world. That's kind of the thing. Yeah. I mean, this is partly with your traditional tatau, and then you can go to the shop and do machine tattooing. Modern machine tattooing, which is different. It's a foot in each world, literally.
And for us Tongans, we are known to be very strong navigators heritage. And I thought that they have used many, many compasses to spread their imperialism around the Pacific. Yeah. So I know pretty much by learning the history of our Tongan chiefs and kings that went around the Pacific, of course they have used different compasses because to land one island and bring an idea and to understand their ideas, you have to. It's almost like diplomacy. We have to stand diplomatic. And Tongans were very diplomatic in their way and their affairs they do. So, how growing up Tonga here and coming here back and forth, I realized that there was a possibility of reviving Tongan tattooing, and I knew it was going to happen in Tonga. It had to happen overseas because it had to build its popularity. It had to gain its interest and its value. But at the same time, we don't want to put the price value. It's not. It's more of a cultural value.
Yeah,
that's most important, And that's something I want to emphasize. Where I admire that someone's attempt on trying to call it a revival when they're doing the Tongan tattoo. At the same time, they just put a bunch of designs together and call it I would say call it a creative expression of Tongan tattooing motifs. But it's not a form of revival.
No, and I think that you said also that there's a lot of academic work being done on it, but academics is not actual revival in any way, shape, or form,
It's like you said, a Tufunga an academic, a Tufunga practices and do that's his belief, his core belief. He does it every day. They'll study it. It's like what it is. You can read about being a farmer and analyze all it, but then there's a farmer actually planting. Doing the work, right? Yeah. That's the Tufunga. That's his expertise. So his field of work, research and observation, that's his wisdom. ancestral intelligence. And I admire that they're trying to attempt to create the Tongan tattooing, and they call it a revival, which is kind of where it kind of bugs me with the part where they put Ta Vaka on it.
Mhm.
And this is why I came out and said, don't call it Ta Vaka, because Ta Vaka is the process.
Yeah.
So my process, when we saw it last summer, was about these boys started agriculture and certain things before they start getting the tattoo. And each part they complete gets that chapter on the tattoo. So everything's embodied physically, mentally, embodiment, and everything. So this was a way to create the Tongan tattoo to have its own cultural values, still by its cultural duties. And that was amazing. That's when I realized that revival. And when I told you before that being young, I was just trying to tattoo myself and call it. But as I'm older now, maturity,
Yeah, something like
it takes
Mhm.
learn, slow down a lot. And I see myself those days. Yeah, I was gung ho, ran into the walls and boom, boom, But I see what happens. I needed that. I needed to be challenged and run into walls and run into dead ends. I get caught up in a ring and then find a way to escape from all these punches. And I think that's when the last 4 or 5 years about didn't want to put a name to it. I already called it a Vaka many years ago. But remember I was saying before that I didn't want to put a label. I didn't want to create. I just wanted to be just something more. When you say the word, it already says, "Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow." But I guess in this day and time, we have to create slogans and labels like labels in a way to get people's attention, because that's what they are now.
Right.
They need icons and logo. So
Yep.
yeah, and we have to navigate through these new waters. Another
Right.
compass. Was which thing when I taught Pacific Academy Arts, Pacific Patterns, and I had a class I had for 2.5 years that taught printing. I made lava-lavas, and actually someone told me, I was telling them about the fish, the lashing, and how we spelled fish versus drawing the fish, how
Yeah.
we do smano versus drawing the bird, and they're like, it was interesting because I had a lot of people go like, wow, I never thought of it that way. He goes, yeah, well, and I said, I used the phone as well. Look at us now, we're using icons,
Mhm.
and our age time, our TV set off and on, right? Now it's a circle with a line in the middle,
Right.
and that's for on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when the first technology came out, I think, where's the on button?
Right.
Right there, Dad. That's the on button.
Right.
But
That's a
now I'm forced to see this circle with a dash in the middle, and that's
Mhm.
the power on. So now we're forced to see these new symbols and icon, and I'm thinking like, so one of my students came out and told me Bluetooth, that symbol Bluetooth. So I
Mhm.
heard that that's actually a chief from the Viking called
Yeah, it
Bluetooth.
could be a rune. Yes, exactly.
It's a ruined design. I goes, why did they name it Bluetooth to connect? He's like, well, he was a something god of thunder or something. I said, really? I was like, and I said to myself, how ironic that they're using ancient ruins to put as icons on the phone, and that's what came to my mind. Is, okay, I get it. This is a new world, so we need new symbols and designs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought about Prince when he changed his name to a symbol. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And clans. I'm like, wow. I thought to myself, wow, okay. Design, name, good. Put a face, got it.
Right. There you go.
But for years, I was doing Tongan tattooing for years, and I
Yeah.
didn't think I needed a name or something. I was
Well,
under.
that's kind of the modern spin on it, though, because I mean, you really did it, and you did get recognition from a person that was pretty high up in Tonga recently. I heard.
Yeah, yeah. So that was an experience to it. In 2010, I had the honor to do the royal family when I was there to introduce the tools, and then around after my grandma's funeral, the prince, the king's son, came to me for his service. Obliged, I was happy and honored that he asked for my service. To me, right there showed that it may not be a revival to the community, but that was a revival within our culture itself.
Right.
Ancestor that came, his ancestors abolished it, but he came, he got the whole full tattoo with tradition tools. So to me, that was a revival within itself. A story that was never told. It'll be told soon. It just never, because of his identity, who he was.
Mhm.
But I think there'll be time when, and I'm saying that this podcast will highlight a lot of things that kept dormant, hidden.
Yeah,
Is
I think so.
because
I mean, and we have a lot of writing too that we're going to be like working on. I think you got a long way to go with pushing this forward, you know? So
yeah,
any method that
yeah,
you can have, I think is a good way to do it, you know? So it's interesting that the person that came to you to get the Tongan Tatatau, the Ta Vaka, actually came to Hawaii to have it done.
yeah. And when he came, he was here for other reasons with the Tongan community, but he had a time to come. He's got tattoos, But to seek me out, I thought I was very honored. People don't realize that. I tell my apprentices that tattoos are privilege. Don't think that you deserve to tattoo people.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah, but is
chosen,
there some reason that he came to Hawaii rather than having you come to Tonga?
yes. So it goes back to the culture, rituals, and what do you call it? Tapus.
Okay.
A royal blood with the tradition to can never bleed on his own soil. Yeah. So it was very perfect. And some of these, I think, academic people don't understand that reason why a lot of tattoo royal families used to get tattooed in Samoa was that no one was high enough to touch the king on his own soil and bleed his blood on his own soil. It's something I think they kind of left down, and this is something I know a lot of the history of Tongan tattooing. I just don't tell it out because a lot of these guys rewrite and misinterpret the word.
Yeah.
For cultural rights, a lot of practices and rituals were done on the royals were not done in Tonga because they couldn't be bled on their own soil. So a lot of hand touching, cutting hair were designated by certain people to do their ceremonies, and tattooing was one of them. Now in Tonga, they had their own tattooers tattooing the common people and some of the nobles and chiefs. They were all okay, When it came to royal bloodlines, they were not subject to touch in Tonga. And Tui Tongans were also not to be touched as well. People get the I think consider that Tui Tongans were tattooed,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a thing saying that they were not actually marked. It was the other clans down below that were marked. So therefore, certain royals will go get their work done with their relatives back in Samoa because we also intermarriage, what we were talking about before, and they come back with their work. But other than that, Tongan tattooing has its own tattooing heritage within itself.
Right.
So that's the part that we're trying to research and revive. And we must understand that Tongan tattooing cannot exist now to today to revival if we didn't go to the route of Samoa, because it ended up on the shores last and coming back.
Right.
It's that Ta Vaka again, that space that we call in Tonga called the Va. It's that space that we have that we're still guarding, we're still keeping that kinship with each other.
Yeah.
And again, that's that boat we're talking about.
Mhm.
The canoe continues to keep that relation, and
Right.
that canoe goes up here. If a culture has no canoe, then it will not survive.
Right.
They will die.
Right.
You don't have
There's nowhere to go. Yeah.
You have to have this vessel, and that's where it's
So what about the designs? Like you were talking about, buttons on phones and whatever, but designs from back in the day, like ancestral designs. Did they come through Samoa, or did you find them from different sources, or how do you kind of figure out what belongs to Tonga?
Yeah. So I created a whole new design for our Tongan people called tatau. Now, a lot of young generation kids, and this is something they need to understand that we're coming from a machine tattoo. So your physical body and your mind is different. But when you use a tool, your physical mind is different too as well. For instance, if you take a paintbrush, the paintbrush only allowed to do this. You take a pen, you're allowed to do this. The tool dictates what it can be done.
Right.
Now, these kids can, and I know because I'm a machine artist myself, yes, we can create a fancy design machine and create these dazzles and movement and stuff, which is amazingly beautiful. But you remember now, behind the tool, the engineering of geometrical shapes and stuff only limited. So that already tells you that we have to go on this. We have to don't make the tool do the machine work.
Right.
Yeah, and that already told me that we have to redesign our Tongan tattoo from the tool. So the design, we go back to my teachers, Kanun Master Building, the lasher, Tohi. The knowledge of stars was I used to read a lot of books of Data Fighter and didn't know that we had our own celestial stars named because we all go by the Zeus Greek, we all go by Hercules, not knowing that we had our own stars, and that was good. And I was like, okay, now and then the stars are the heavens, they're the Langi, and they dictate what happens on Fonua, the land. And that relation there is very important because the star, sun, and moon plays a big part on the agriculture. Because Tonga had a very strong agriculture empire, and that agriculture empire built this civilization called the Tongan Empire. And the Vaka was the way to spread that imperialism. So in relation to Langi, Fonua, and Moana, Fonua is the land, the agriculture, and Moana is the ocean. The Vaka connects the man to the ocean. So I built my designs and motifs of around these three elements, and then kita, self, us, our body, sino. So instead of going off the tapa design, which is more modern, a lot of kids like it, and it's good. I use it in contemporary, but we have to understand the tapa and the ngatu design. It's a female gesture. It's a female text. It's done by women. So women we call lalanga, Men a la lava, meaning that's what these people, the weavers, the lashers. Men are lashers, women are weavers. Kind of like that. So if you look at their designs, women designs are a little bit more on the a lot with the weaving designs, a lot of the tapo designs. Their gestures are more. So what they did was take the male design, interpret it into a more feminine movement. So the tapo was created, the daris of Tonga. So they came with all these floral designs and this. Yet it was mimic of the male designs. Male comes with the land produced. So all this plays, and that's why at that Ta Vaka ceremony, that's what it was all about. These men did the male do it, and the top one and mats were from the female line. They got together, and that was it. And we call this in Tonga koloa. And in any funeral, weddings, or birthdays, or any ceremony, these are the two items that a brother and sister must provide into the culture, and that's called culture duty. Now, however you do it, that's up to them. But the presentation is everything.
Right. And I saw that at the ceremony that you invited me to here a couple of weeks ago, and it was definitely something to behold. You said that it was for the families of the two young men that had finished their vaka, their tattoo, and that they had to come to a certain point to be able to do that with the farming and the community and their families and service to God also, right? And so that really is the structure of your Ta Vaka Foundation, is to give these people that path to come to a particular point at the finishing of their tatau.
Yeah, and that's why I say the Ta Vaka is more of the process versus just, and for Tongan tattooing, to me, I feel that it has to have a certain purpose. To revive something is to revive through a physical state of mind and consciousness. Yeah, and spirituality. It has to. To gain not a price value. I'm not saying that Ta Vaka is free, that they will have to pay for the materials that has to be done. But what I'm saying is that if you put a price value on that, then it's sold.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems very, very clean, right? I mean, so you're taking something that's been gone for 200 years and bringing it back, but at the same time that it has a modern twist, it's extremely rooted in tradition.
And like I said, I do cater to a lot to the Tongans are in the diaspora because of the fact that they can't go back home to Tonga. But hopefully we will go back to Tonga eventually. But it's the idea of, for instance, like Tyler and Hemi, when they finished their tattoo. People doesn't know that they actually rekindled their relationship with their fathers and sons. Hemi had a son that he didn't meet till later, and then eventually he connected with him through tattooing, through Ta Vaka. Tyler was adopted, and then Ta Vaka kind of he found his father, but on that day we did the umu, his father and son got together and did the umu. Now, in Tongan culture, you learn all that from your father, your father's side. You learn how to be a male on your father's side. You learn all these culture things, tending to the land, among the people, tending to the pigs, cows, whatever that, the male duty, the task. Usually you learn it from your father. But he just met his father a couple years ago, as a biological father. But when Ta Vaka, when he had to perform the duty that was missing, Ta Vaka helped him with that. The father was proud. The father said, thanks for Ta Vaka that he filled that void, that gap that I couldn't. Yeah. And then they did it together. That was, to me, with Hemi and this two batch these two gentlemen that finished this one, I teared up because that's what I wanted Ta Vaka to be, was to rekindle, reconnect, reflame what's missing and renew again. And through service, father and son can together again.
Which is completely different to what you see sometimes in the Samoan tradition, where there's a big party and a ceremony. And
right. Because that's why I'm saying, like, being understand Samoan Tatatau and Tongan Tatatau, that's something that we need to understand, that the Samoan families will support this child and daughter to get their models and because at the end they will represent the family. They're the heart of the family, and they will lead the family with their being that it died. It slept for a long time. I don't say it died, it slept for a long time. How can we bring that value back to the people? So we have to involve them in the and make them understand what they're getting. Because when a Tongan boy gets tattooed, and there's no family support because they don't know what's going on. Tongan culture is very complex, just like Samoan culture is complex.
It's completely different.
Yes, very different. Just put a creative design and then say, hey, it's Tongan tattooing. Yeah, but give us a term. What is the fatumia? What is your duty? What is a kavenga? Your fahos and rumutuas, and understand the order structure in the Tongan family, and then your nobles and chiefs and stuff. And that's something that with this, I'm trying to bring the cultural value back. That's the thing where that's the only thing that tell them that go to a Tongan Tufunga because it's a revival. Go that be very referral. There's a Tongan Tufunga here. Go there. We'll tell you. They'll tell your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you a story because I have no idea the structure of it, and that's something that I feel that leave Tongan Tattoo alone in a way because we will tell our story.
Right.
It's take time. It's there, but it's very delicate because there's still the palace. It's not somebody who's riding a high horse and goes, "Hey, this is it."
Your Su'a title gives you a very high rank in the tattoo world, and it almost gives you a rank that is higher than your king, which cannot possibly be when you go to Tonga.
Something or a chief. I mean, like a noble, not king, but like one of the noble or chief. But I'm a working Tufunga, but I didn't. Yeah, and that's why I think. Oh yeah, and no, thanks you mentioned that. Ta Vaka was also to protect the Sulu'ape family as well, the Su'a family, because I didn't want the name Su'a or Sulu'ape be trampled
Mm-hmm.
when I do the Tongan tattoo, because it's very high, but the Tongans don't understand.
Yeah.
Then they call me Toko, and they call me this, and they call me Aisea, and hey Sulu'ape, and then they think it's funny, because they don't know how to treat a Tongan Tufunga. So Ta Vaka, I rather Ta Vaka to be more own identity, so when the Tongans come, they can actually feel free, be more diplomatic towards our Tufunga. But at the same time, the Tufunga title in Samoa is very high. They treat like kings, but in Tonga, it will never treat that way. The level makes sense. It doesn't. They won't have that level perceived because it's still considered a taboo. But yeah, I didn't want Su'a's name be thrown freely in among the Tongan community, as it was just like some it's high, and I value the name very highly, and that's like the way I look at Alaiva'a and the family. Like I don't want them to treat it in the way because they would call like sometimes like. I remember when I used to travel around and we used to meet some more our Tongan families. So always come and go eat at my grandma's house. When he's here, I take him around the Tongan family. But they'll just talk to him like a normal old man. But no. And then he was out the rock was serving food, but the same way he served the food is almost as higher than Apateao or Adi'i, or because he's the priest of tattooing.
Yeah.
That mana is not there in Tonga.
Right.
A priest of tattooing. The two of them, they're the priests of tattooing. Like they're the gods of tattooing. Me going with that I didn't want kind of the ministry of tattooing be described by people they don't understand, who don't care about tattooing. So I was very delicate to see that.
It definitely seems, I mean, there's just a hierarchy of the whole thing that people outside of it have a really hard time understanding. And I think that's part of your problem with these academics that want to come along and say, oh, we reinvented Tongan tattooing, is they don't understand how special it is to Tufunga people like yourself who do everything, give an entire life to revive this, to reawaken it and get to the roots of it all, And
and not sit behind something in the research, but actually in the pit with them, working side by side.
Yeah.
That's the thing. One guy called him expert in Samoan Tongan tattooing. I'm like, how are you expert when you're not in the grind? You have to be with them. You speak work with them side by side. Then you can stand the two of them. And I tell you, Samoan culture, it is a beautiful culture. It is Samoa's the finest, one of the finest in the Pacific. It's something that's what taught me. And growing up in overseas and seeing how some Samoans treat their culture to their benefits. With Su'a, he's the finest of Samoa. I mean, the things I learned and watched, I see no wonder a lot of Tongans adopted some of its values. And that's something I always said. So understand Samoan culture values wasn't hard. It was actually kind of easy because Samoan culture, Tongan and Fijian values are very similar. It's just a certain installation, certain rituals and practice, but it's beautiful. I mean, it's Pam. It's the gift giving. It's when they ask for apologies. They're talking. They're talking chief. Their poetry. Samoa are very proud people, and they battled a lot of Western cultures to keep them out to be independent. And they are fighting people. And I said when I met Su'a, I was like, wow, he really exposed this to me. And going back home to Samoa, spending a lot of time with him there, I saw the value of what a Su'a title is. And that was something that I hear to. And Bill is that growing up in Hawaii, in Tonga, I'm the child of a third son. So I have a duty. My cultural duty is to, we call it Tonga, stand on the fire. I have duties to the umu. I have duties to provide for my sister children, my auntie's children, call it that. So we have our own culture. When I went to Samoa, when I got my title, he told me, you guys come back to Hawaii, you got to introduce to chiefs. I didn't know how to be treated like a chief or accept some of these gifts. And then, I didn't, it was something new to me. And I said, wow, this is new and this is serious.
Right. And then you
Yeah. So,
started giving back more than you did
yeah,
before.
yeah. Yeah. But I come back from Samoa, grew up fast. I had to realize that, not grow up fast, but more the fact that the shit is real.
Mhm.
So I'm glad because every time I would visit throughout the years back and forth, there was always something. Man, I wake up in the morning and there's a basket of food and papayas ready for me, and I'm
Right.
like, "What is this?" I was like, "Oh, this is because you're a Su'a," and I would take it and feed it. But so me being a Tongan Commodore, no, I served my sisters and brothers. Here, I was being served as my title. Does that make sense now? So, yeah, so that was totally
Yeah.
different. In Samoa, I'm valued higher of the clan, and then in Tonga, I'm just Isaiah, my dad's son, my grandpa. So it's like okay, but then in Tonga, they're like the highest tattooist of the clan. Now you can see why I entered Tonga was like, yeah, he's Isaiah, but he also has a high title in Samoa, so it was easy, but Tonga, my family, I'm Isaiah. They don't call me Su'a. They call me Isaiah. Go grab this. Go grab that. So, okay, eat this. Okay, yeah. So yeah, but in Samoan culture, they make the food for me.
Mhm.
And I'm very grateful and because of my title, not because I
Yeah.
said because I'm a Su'a, and it's fine.
Yeah,
And that's
and you worked
what I
for it,
realized.
and now you are building something else, so I mean that's just part of, I think, giving back. I mean you gave a lot and now it's given to you and you're giving it back. And
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing that is striking about all this. Is what makes me interested in it because ever since I first touched on the edges of Polynesian tatau, it was super curious. But now in listening to all of this, it becomes more
yeah.
like, wow, that's a true dedication to your craft.
And that this Ta Vaka will be more the Tongan platform for people who want to learn Tongan tattooing and Chinese philosophy. And this is from all my research and observation. And I'm glad I didn't go to no university to learn Tongan Samoan culture, but
Yeah, you still be there.
yeah, but embedded with them, stay with
Yeah,
them, live with them.
yeah,
That's how the culture is. Go to the country, stay with them, or be part of the society, and that's where you learn. It's the what do you call learn mistakes, trial and error, and then observation, and then you're like, okay, in fact, it's different. And I don't write a book. Hopefully one day I'll write some notes. But from here, putting everything together, like the difference and the culture and the different its beauty of its service, because they
mm,
both are service culture. But at the same time, who are the people involved in
right.
the class system?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think this is where how I gotta navigate of how Tongan tattoo and Samoan tattoo integrate with each other in a way where it has this great respect
Mhm.
and it doesn't degrade one chiefly title, and be trampled on. We
Right.
want to stay there. We want the Tulawana family to stay up there. There are tattoo priests that they've been there for um, centuries and old, so we want them to stay. To come to a country that don't respect tattooing value was kind of a little bit challenging. And like I said, you just can't be no guy come on goes, hey, I own Soul Signature, I'm this and that, and I'm here. It's talking tattooing. They look at you like, all right,
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think you're the man for the job.
So that's where we go back to the cultural value. I think that's
Yeah,
where it's good. If we bring
exactly.
value with the people and the people involved, maybe within the community, they'll start that conversation. Say, hey, you know what? This two one is different from this one. Is actually doing something with the people
Yeah.
and doing something so great. And with work and work and work and work, and seeing those boys finish the tattoo, I think people knew. I look at the work. I'm like, man, I did that, or someone else did that. But that's what I'm saying. That spiritual mana, be that vessel, the spirits talking to my ears while I'm working to create. So yes, I hope that we covered some things, and like I said, the
Yeah.
hopefully the Tongan people have see Tongan tattooing as a cultural value versus a taboo.
Well, I think just a case of, like you said, just working on it and figuring out how to make it fit together, how the lashings work
Yeah, yeah.
effectively. And that will take some time. And you're also battling the internet and the artificial intelligence and all this other crap. But, I mean, it's just important to go with what you believe in and make it count. Yeah. So,
Time, yeah. We said
yeah.
it that same time, time is planting